You are listening to Let's Get Metaphysical. This podcast explores the spiritual and metaphysical world through the experiences and opinions of the host and those interviewed. It should not necessarily be seen as direct endorsement or personal advice to our listeners. We encourage you to use your own discernment, judgment, and intuition regarding anything you learn from this show.
Let's get meta.
Welcome to Let's Get Metaphysical. I'm your host, Renata Maniaci, here to remind you that just because something is not in physical form does not mean it isn't real. For example, air is not something physical, but it keeps us alive every moment. Love is not something you can hold on to, but it makes the world go round. And most people can't see angels. But by golly, if they aren't just the invisible, cosmic Earth support force keeping this whole thing going. Well, you never know. This is Season 4, our season of miracles. Why miracles? Because they are uplifting, they give us hope, and they're real. Just another way of seeing the interaction between the spiritual and the material, the metaphysical and the physical, as we like to highlight here on this podcast. As you heard in the last episode, I am devoting this whole season to one special person and to the community his miracles and teachings have benefited. His name is Master John Douglas. In the last episode, episode 37, I gave a more thorough intro into who Master John Douglas is, how I became acquainted with his work, and some terms that are going to be used throughout this season. If you have not listened to that episode yet, I encourage you to do so before listening into this one. In this episode, you are going to hear true stories of physical healing miracles performed by Master John and the master healing angels he works with. You'll hear about somebody who was cured of Lyme disease, which is actually a disease that Master John is quite famous for curing. You'll hear from someone cured of extreme pain. You'll hear from another person who was cured of digestive issues, and of another who was cured of sarcoidosis. These are all first-hand miracles from the people who experienced them. These miracles were recorded in different locations throughout Master John's 2019 fall tour, and therefore they carry their own various background noises. So I'm sorry about that, and please excuse any incongruence of the sound. But let's just get right into it. So are you ready? I'm ready. Let's get meta.
Hi, I'm Melanie. I'm 29. I live in Chicago, Illinois, and I love Master John.
Perfect. What miracles would you like to tell us about today?
I'll share my first miracle. He cured my Lyme disease that I had for over 5 years. It knocked me out. I went from being a runner who ran 50 miles a week to I couldn't even walk to my classes. And I missed my senior year of college, and I just felt like things were just being taken from me. And then finally I'd tried everything. Spent thousands of dollars trying to get better, just trying to get by and stay alive. I even had a doctor run tests and tell me they didn't know why I was alive because they said my blood work was not of a living person. And so finally, actually, my doctor said he didn't know how to help anymore, and he sent me to another doctor, which led to me finding Master John.
Wow.
So it was really neat. I drove there. I had no idea who I was seeing or what was happening. Lawrence, Kansas.
Wow.
Yeah, he had already been to Chicago, and at this point I was like, nobody can cure this. Everybody is kind of full of it, as bad as that sounds, but I was like, people are just trying to like almost play off your vulnerability and your desperation to get better. So something about this was like, this is what I need to do. And even my mom had never missed a day of work. She never takes off vacation, sick day, never. And she took off a Monday last minute and drove me down. We had found out about it like 3 days prior. Drove me to Kansas, and I remember I saw him, and I had this like list of all the symptoms and everything, and it was not even 3 minutes he cured it. And he goes, and he was so cute, anything else? And I'm sitting here, I was in pajamas, I couldn't even like dress myself at this point. And he's like, I was like, what do you mean anything else? Like, you just cured this. And it was just crazy. I'm like, I don't know what just happened or what, like, I don't know. And I left, and all of a sudden I was cracking jokes and I had energy. And I remember driving home, and my mom didn't see him because she didn't understand who Master John was. And she like stopped the car and looked at me, and she's like, what did he do? She's like, I haven't seen this person in years. She's like, I'm seeing him. Like, so she started coming with me to see him, but it was crazy. Like, even like OCD things, like smells that would bother me were gone. We stayed in like a hotel on the way back because we got tired halfway, and my mom's like, should we find a different hotel? Because everything was making me sick before that. The Lyme had crashed my immune. I was like, this is fine. And she's like, what? So it was just the Lyme, like just a huge miracle in so many ways, like getting my life back just to chill out like that, even because Lyme had me so wound up and so scared of catching, I had mono and strep throat for like 2 months I couldn't get rid of, just all that. And I was sent home with like the detox, and I took it super seriously. I was taking detox baths, using the foot patches, and since I had it so long, it took me a little bit. How
long did it take you to detox, do you think?
About a year.
Yeah.
But I just knew I had to stick with it, and I was getting slow. Like, people were even commenting, old coworkers saw me, and they're like, we didn't even know how sick you were until we're seeing this version of you. They're like, wow, the comparison. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
They were like, we're not trying to offend you. And I was like, no, I'm working hard, thank you. Like, but
how old were you when you realized that you had Lyme?
It was the week before my 21st birthday.
Okay.
I got shingles, and they were like, went to a major hospital, and they were like, why do you have shingles? You're so young. And I was like, I don't know. And they didn't know.
Right, of course.
And so, yeah, they kept testing me, and I didn't have the bullseye rash for Lyme, so a lot of them didn't want to test me. They're like, we're not billing insurance. You can pay it out of pocket. And
how old were you when you saw Master John, when you cured the Lyme?
I was 20 when I just turned 25. So I was just turning 21, and I just turned 25 when I saw him.
Wow.
So at this point, I still had a year left at college, and doctors were like, give up on it. And they're like, you're going to eventually not, like, just be thankful you can walk. And I went to Mayo Clinic. I waited months for an appointment and thinking, like, everybody kept saying, go to Mayo. So I'm like, this is finally it, and drove all the way up there, spent all the money staying, and 8 doctors sat me down at a table, and they're like, Lyme is so confusing. We don't know enough about it. They're like, we'll put you in a program for thousands of dollars, and you can learn how to live with chronic illness, like being ill. They're like, you can meet other people who have illnesses that aren't curable.
And you're like 22, 23, yeah. You're like, no.
Yeah.
You don't want to live your life like that. There has to be another way.
Yeah, I was like, I think I'm living with it okay. I just want my life back.
Wow.
So you start to think, like, this is it. Like, you wonder, wow, can I finish school? Am I, you start to wonder if you should believe doctors or not, because society, a lot of people really believe in them. And I mean, there are some good ones out there. I did have some that helped me, but then I had a majority that didn't help me. And, this is also funny. I remember I would go to different doctors just to get different opinions to see, and every doctor I went to would give me a different prescription or a different diagnosis. They would diagnose me lupus or Sjogren's syndrome. Like, I had all these diagnoses and all these steroids, medicines, ADHD. Oh my gosh, it went on. And I grew up, I didn't even like Tylenol, so I wouldn't take it, but I would collect the prescriptions. And I had this huge stack on the table, and none of the prescriptions matched.
Wow.
And I thought, if what's really wrong with me, if they figure it out, people are going to start having the same diagnosis, same prescriptions. then maybe I'll take it because that makes sense. But when they're all guessing, I had a doctor ask me, what do you want to take?
Oh my God.
I was like,
No,
I don't think this is sleep and
that's not appropriate. Yeah.
So I didn't take any of them, and thank goodness Master John said that was huge, not having all that buildup. And the side effects sometimes are irreversible of taking raw medicines. So, but anyway, I like to ramble. And
No, you're doing great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, he cured me. I detoxed. I saw him at a Chicago event, and I still had a little detoxing left. And I was like, okay. And I ended up going and seeing him in Los Angeles. It was not a month later, and he goes, it's gone.
Wow.
And I was like beaming. I remember it was 1 a.m. because he was working all night because we used to stay at events so late. And I ran up and called my mom back in Illinois time, woke her up, and I was like, it's gone.
Oh.
And I was she's like, you sound amazing. What? And so the next day I'm like, I'm going to go test this out if it's gone, And I went and hiked the Culver Stairs, and I did it a few times, and I was like, I feel fine. Like, my joints didn't hurt. Flew home that night and went back to school. It was December, signed up for classes January, took that next year, and then graduated with my degree from a top university. Same university I was going to, everything.
Wow. That's incredible. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Tracy, and I'd like to share the first time I met Master John. I was in some crippling pain. Everything was burning. My knees, my eyes, my ears. I had what I thought was nerve damage in my arm. I could barely lift it anymore. And I was a massage therapist at the time. So I tried this and that and chiropractors, and nothing was helping. And a friend told me about Master John coming to our town. So I went to see him. And I remember being curled up in the corner in pain before my session. And I didn't want anybody to talk to me, so I didn't feel good. And I saw one woman walk out after seeing him who had had Lyme. And before she went in, she looked about 90 years old. And she came out and her face was pink. She looked 30 years younger. And I thought, oh my God, something's going to happen. So he kept looking at me and then opening his eyes as if in shock at how inflamed my system was. And he told me what was going on was my kidneys were so severely dehydrated. They were excreting salt instead of fluid, and they were just lodging in my tissues. He said I was headed for a wheelchair and pointed to his brain and said brain stuff, which I took to mean dementia. And he did look concerned. And he said, I'm going to move that into your lymphatic system so that it can flush out. I don't even think a minute went by, and I slumped down into my seat. I guess you would call it bliss. Wow. He said, are you in pain now? And I said, I don't know, but I feel like I just landed in Hawaii. I felt mentally and spiritually amazing. He said, that is your natural state. That's how you should feel all the time. And I woke up the next day and all my pain was gone. I felt great. Not only did I feel great, I felt clear. I felt things that had a hold on me, physically, emotionally, relationships. Something was shifted. I didn't want those things. And I became a devotee.
Wow.
He had told me to take certain minerals, which then I religiously took so they keep me balanced and flushed the salt out of my system. Sure. And anyway, so I just bought all the CDs and I follow him everywhere. It's astounding. So that's my story.
My name is Julia, and I would like to share a few miracles that have happened in the very short time that I've been involved with Master John. So basically, a couple of years ago, for about 3 years period, I had major stomach issues. I had leaky gut. I didn't find that out until just 2 years ago. And I had been augmenting my diet in many different ways to try to find relief from the stomach issues that I was having, the bloating and different things like that. I pretty much was down to a point of eating boiled carrots. I was actually going through about 6 kilos of carrots a week. And I was eating that and a couple of other things just to manage feeling okay. And it wasn't superb, but it was helping. And my energy was low. So there was that going on. And also I was had been exposed to mold. And so that was happening. So there's multiple things going on. And I started using the food repair disc and following a protocol that had come through the Master John community. And I was able to get some relief. And then in working with various people that have worked with Master John, I was able to receive some healing that it just started to get better and better and better. And that was really amazing to see that. And then when I finally got to see Master John in person for the second time, once realizing those were the issues that I was dealing with, it was like almost instant that happened when I saw him. There was a healing that took place. All the kind of back and forth, basically through the work that I was doing with the various people in the Master John community, what came forward was that I had parasites, and those parasites were causing a few different issues, and they just weren't going away. I had done a couple of different parasite cleanses, and I'd also stopped eating and did a master cleanse for, I think it was 5 days, where I didn't eat any food. I was just doing the master cleanse. And what happened was I was really desperate. So I went to a place of not eating and just trying to get to the root of the problem. And what ended up happening was, after doing the master cleanse, it actually got worse. And so I got to a point of really needing to do something about it. And that's when I started finding the relief through doing the different health repair process from Master John, using the food repair disc, using parasite repair, and then working with individuals that were making requests for me to help me to kill the parasites that were inside so that, I could start that recovery process. So that was really amazing. So that was all happening alongside I was having a couple of different situations with close family members. And you could kind of say that there was a mirror there in the relationship, parasitic type relationships that I was involved in. And through cleansing my body and also the listening to the processes with Master John and doing my work, I ended up actually coming to a place of harmony in those relationships. They're very dear relationships to me. And as soon as I started to change myself, that's when I started to see the improvement in my relationships around me. And now I have, it's not perfect all the time, but I have a lot of peace in those relationships, and it feels really good. So now I'm able to eat. I'm able to eat a wide variety of different foods. I came to realize that I could handle eating a little bit of bread, a little bit of nuts, things that I was never able to eat before because they would just put me right out. And now I'm able to eat bits of those here and there without any problems. I've also come to a realization there are some things that just are not in agreement with me. I still can't eat dairy. I break out in hives. But other than that, the variety of foods I'm now able to eat as a result of going through that healing, it's been amazing. And I'm still healing and I'm still learning but it's just an incredible amount of difference. Back when I was having those major stomach issues, I also had brain fog. I had an alcohol taste in my mouth. I don't even drink alcohol, but I was waking up with an alcohol taste in my mouth. I was constantly dehydrated, dry mouth, having to urinate frequently throughout the night. So these were all issues that I was dealing with that I don't have anymore. So it's really amazing. I feel really good about it. So thank you, Master John. Really appreciative of your work that you're doing here on this planet. It sure is helping my life. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Jan, and I'm here with beautiful Ren today. And I'm happy to share my miraculous story of healing from a debilitating illness called sarcoidosis. And many people, like myself, have never even heard of sarcoidosis. I laughingly told my doctor, sarcophagus, what's that? Isn't that a burial tomb in Egypt?
Right.
And basically it was for almost 3 years. I was bedridden and in an 8 out of 10 pain daily. And I went through whatever I could Western medicine-wise, Cleveland Clinic, multiple doctors, specialists. They'd argue about how to treat me and what was going to happen. And because the sarcoidosis creates internal scarring, basically, when the white blood cells explode, because there's bacteria inside, they form granulomas, and wherever they go, they damage your organs. So I went blind in my left eye. It was affecting my heart, my nerves, very painful. And I was facing experimental heart surgery to try to extend my life. But fortunately, before we got to that point, I was surrendered to possibly having to leave the planet or do the surgery, but I actually cried out for a miracle. And I said, if it's my time to go, okay, fine. But if there's a miracle, please send it to me. And not long after, I had the good fortune of being invited to see a healer from Australia named Master John Douglas. I had no idea who he was. I'd never heard his name before, never seen his website. But when I heard his name, I got this overwhelming desire to go to the workshop and almost a recognition within myself. So I went, and that was a life-saving and life-changing decision for me. He was able to actually see with his own frequency reading special abilities that he's had since he was 9, able to see the 2 bacteria that modern medicine couldn't diagnose and can't yet see, and relieved my pain in under 2 minutes. Wow. Yeah, it was fantastic. And after 3 years, yes. And I literally felt the pain drain out of my feet, and got up and danced around the room and was so happy. And he said, if you'd like, write a testimonial. I asked him how I could thank him. And really, how do you thank someone that just gave you your life back? There's really no way you can thoroughly thank them. But so I wrote a testimonial, and so it has been shared occasionally at workshops. And also because I had before and after blood work to verify what happened. I'm case study number 1 in Medical Miracles book by our good friend, Dr. Rick Sarnat.
Wow.
So, but for me, the physical healing and all of that is secondary to the amazing miracles I've had in my psychology, in my behavior, and in my spiritual development. And the beautiful thing about Master John Douglas and his work is he sends out, cosmic course corrections to people. For me, it was my physical illness. And when I had my healing, I wanted to do whatever I could. And he said, your illness was a course correction to bring you to this work. And for some people, maybe they're listening to this podcast and then they become curious and they look up masterangels.org and find out more for themselves. Maybe a friend drags them to a workshop for the first time. That happens to many people. And then their lives begin to change. And, beyond the physical aspect of being able to get out of bed and regain my health. And I just celebrated 5 years sarcoidosis-free 2 days ago.
Yay!
Yeah. And I feel amazing. And so, that is a great blessing, of course. But what do you do after you have a miracle? Do you just want to go back to your normal life and 9 to 5 and just pretend like it never happened? Or do you want that to become a catalyst for change? And for me, that was a catalyst. And I've continued to listen to Master John's tools, volunteer in service, continue to grow and spiritually develop into the best person I can be. And for myself and for many others of us who like to come to as many workshops as we can, just the spiritual development and the miraculous changes within ourselves, within my friends that we know that we've watched each other grow and develop. There's no better way to become my best self on the planet than Master John's work. And I can say, Bible college graduate myself, raised Catholic, sometimes people that come from more traditional religion or maybe more left brain aspects, they kind of question, the miracle aspect or just how this even works. And luckily we do have medical miracles for the left brain side. And for those that come from a traditional Catholic or Christian background, I say miracles have been happening throughout time. And for myself, why would I think that our loving God would stop sending miracles at a time when we need them most? And with all the microorganisms and the incurable, quote, incurable autoimmune disorders, why wouldn't our God send miracles through someone now in a way that is most life-changing and in a way that we really need? And for me, man's greatest challenge now, sure, we've got threats, within political systems, and there's, terrorism and things that are horrible. But the biggest, most ongoing threat that I see are the microorganisms and the microbial world, and how there's all these, GMOs and chemicals and things attacking our bodies in ways that we can't possibly evolve naturally fast enough. So, for the skeptic, I believe it is a miracle for our time, and it's through the window of health, through killing these microorganisms, because that is the way that we need it most to survive on our planet. So there's just so many wonderful things. I could go on and on because I'm so overjoyed and so blessed and happy to be here sharing this. But if you're hearing my voice, if this is the first time you've heard any of this, and you're slightly curious, don't take my word for it, do your own research, go to masterangels.org, read Medical Miracles, learn for yourself, and find out what's possible for you, because miracles on every level are happening right now today.
I quite agree. And if you are feeling curious to learn a bit more, please do check out masterangels.org. A big thanks to the folks who shared their miracles for this episode. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, I have great news for you. The entire rest of this season is full of true miracle stories. More physical healing miracles, emotional and mental healing miracles, miracles with pets, miracles with money, remote healing miracles, and an episode with a medical doctor who wrote a book about Master John's work, Medical Miracles by Dr. Rick Sarnett, and much, much more. So stay tuned with us. Our next episode will be an interview with a true miracle man, one who would not be here today if it were not for Master John, Dr. Christopher Hartnett. Chris is a Harvard Business School grad, founder of several multi-million-dollar companies, including the world's largest long-distance phone company in the 1990s, a longtime practitioner of transcendental meditation who lived with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi for several years, and who now, along with his partner Linda, heads up CMA International Foundation and accompanies Master John Douglas around the world as his right-hand man. This interview is fascinating. There is no better person to dive deeper into a season of angelic miracle stories than Dr. Christopher Hartnett, who knows Master John better than almost any other person on the planet. You are definitely going to want to hear this episode. The bonus content for today's episode is further discussion between me and Jan, who was the last miracle story you heard today. When Master John and the angels cured Jan from debilitating sarcoidosis, her entire life changed. And we will dig into that a bit and some other angelic topics in the bonus content, which you can find by going to patreon.com/letsgetmeta. Patreon is spelled Patreon, so patreon.com/letsgetmeta, and becoming a patron of the podcast for as little as $2 a month, which amounts to about $1 per episode. Our patrons keep this podcast going, and we love them and we honor them. I am going to leave it there for today. We will catch you next time. Until then, stay meta.
The statements and advice offered in this podcast are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or medical condition, and are not substitutes for prudent medical care offered by a licensed medical professional. References to healing or treatments in this podcast are describing faith-based blessings performed by God and the Master Healing Angels. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you like what we are doing, please consider becoming a patron of the podcast at patreon.com/letsgetmeta. Our intention is to raise the vibration of the planet by sharing, validating, and normalizing spiritual and metaphysical experiences. If you haven't pledged yet, we would really appreciate your support. It helps keep this show going. Let's Get Metaphysical is a production of the Hana Healing Arts Network. The show's host is Renata Maniaci. The music for this podcast was composed by Rob Trefort of goldenturtlesound.org. Thank you for listening. Stay meta.
Let's get meta. Metaphysical. Let's get meta. Metaphysical. Let's get meta. Metaphysical. Let's get meta. Metaphysical.